Hello and welcome to episode 79 of This Week in Germany. We'll be bringing the world to Germany and Germany to the world with news for the week beginning the 5th of July 2015. My name's Daniel.
And my name's Rob. Each week we feature stories from the news, society, and culture in the English language. If you want to find out more, including ways to follow us on Facebook or Twitter, head over to our website, thisweekingermany.de.
So it is very, very warm at the moment. What temperature is it?
I would say that's an understatement.
How hot is it right now?
It is like 100 degrees Fahrenheit. It's something here where I'm living. It is something like 38 degrees.
Yeah,
right
I would
now.
say for Celsius fans, it is right at the moment, looking at my computer, 34 degrees Celsius here in Berlin. So, whew, it is very, very warm. And if you'd like to see some pictures from the warm weather from this week, and including a time-lapse video, you can go to instagram.com/thisweekingermany. You can follow us there. And also, we have lots more social media places as well. Just head over to thisweekingermany.de, and you can find everything in the sidebar.
And later coming up on the program, we're going to, for the destination, go to the Topography of Terror, which is an outdoor open-air museum, or at least part. Now they also have an indoor part as well. And we're also going to be covering some of the news that happened this week, such as a robot that killed somebody at a VW factory.
Yes, and also Germany's positioning in the World Cup. That's the Women's Football World Cup. And also the penalty for getting caught without paying a ticket on public transport is going up. So for all you people who like to fare dodge out there, you better watch out.
And our German of the Week is going to be it's a writer who got a literary prize in Germany by the name of Amos Oz.
What, literally?
Who wrote
literally got a literary prize?
Did I say literary? I said
No. You said it fine. I was just seeing if you meant it literally.
Okay.
Or
yes,
is it literarily?
He literally got a literary prize. Yes, and for a book called Judah.
Okay, and now let's get started with our top story, which is an environmental one. On Thursday, Germany announced a plan to close down its most polluting power plants in order to reach ambitious climate targets. The 5 generation facilities are fired using lignite, also known as brown coal, and this is a highly polluting substance. But it wasn't an easy ride to get here. Earlier plans to penalize coal usage faced protest from thousands of people. They said that this would destroy their jobs. However, environmentalists say that the planned coal levy was better at lowering carbon emissions and was much cheaper.
Well, then why did the old plan fail then?
Basically, it was a group of people who protested against it, but it's the sheer size of this group which was very important. So it was IG, BCE, and Verdi. Those are 2 huge unions in Germany. Mm-hmm. But also the Social Democrat governments in North Rhine-Westphalia and Brandenburg, and the CDU governments in Saxony and Saxony-Anhalt. And they all were against this coal levy measure. So despite the fact that it could have saved a lot of money in compared to this new plan, which is just shutting down the power plants, it was basically tossed aside because of worries about whether these people would be able to continue with their jobs.
Well, what is the new plan exactly? You said it's shutting down power plants. It has to be more than that.
Yeah, well, in this new plan, 2.7 gigawatts of lignite capacity will essentially be paid to go into a capacity reserve. What that means is that they'll essentially be phased out over the next few years, these power plants. But if suddenly Germany or parts of Germany need more power, then they can be switched on for that purpose only. And yes, so that's between now and 2020, and that should reduce emissions by 11 million tons.
Well, it seems like it might take away a lot of jobs too. Or how are unions going to accept this? Why did they say that this is okay?
Well, they simply accepted it because this will be a more gentler transition than if they were to simply impose a coal levy straight away, which would make it really expensive to use coal, which means that less coal would be used, jobs would be cut. But this new shutting down over time, but still having the potential capacity, that's going to be a bit easier on the industries. But it's not really ideal. So basically, this coal levy would have cost around 1 billion euros, and that would have cut 22 million tons of emissions. But this new plan will cost double that and will only cut 15 million tons. So, between 11 and 15 million tons. So it's really not as effective. But there's a bit of a political controversy here because it was originally the energy minister, economic affairs and energy minister Sigmar Gabriel, who proposed this coal levy. And according to this article by Politico, Felix Christian Matters, who's a research coordinator at the Öko Institute, which is a think tank, said that the Chancellery, headed by Angela Merkel, stabbed Sigmar Gabriel in the back by essentially taking this plan away from him, by supporting this new idea, despite the fact that it would have been cheaper, despite the fact that it would have cut more carbon emissions. So, yeah, it's been a pretty tough ride for Sigmar Gabriel in getting this ahead.
And what's his new plan, or what's his new, target for lowering carbon emissions?
Well, in December, it was when the government announced that it wanted to close this abyss of 70 million tons of CO2, which was stopping the country from reaching its carbon target. Essentially, what they want to do is between 1990 and 2020, they want to cut their carbon emissions by 40%, which is very big. So they need these new targets in order to be able to get ahead. They need to come up with this solution to deal with these lignite power plants in order to get ahead here. In 2014, 349 million tons of carbon was emitted. So it's only a drop in the ocean, but it is still something which is moving forward, and these targets are now achievable. So it may be a tough subject, but Germany is a very environmentally aware country. Its plans are ambitious, but because of their tenacity, the climate targets are within sight.
And now, our resident psychologist joins us to tell you about another facet of German life and culture. This month, it's the wonderful and delicious world of German baked goods.
Hello, my name is Sven, and every month I give you some insights on what it means to be German, with interesting stories about typical German things and the German psyche. Today I want to talk about something that the UNESCO may even recognize as an intangible cultural heritage of Germany, like it already did with the Argentinian tango or the Austrian coffeehouse culture. I'm talking about German bread. If you ask German travelers and expats around the world what they missed most from their home, many will point to the quality and variety of German bread and baking goods in general. To them it appears as the rest of the world only knows fluffy white bread without any substance or taste. A slice of toast or French baguette may be nice once in a while, but only a proper German loaf of rye or whole wheat bread with an almost moist center and a nice dark crust can fully satisfy a German stomach and heart. While many cultures only see bread as a minor element of their diet, Germans have always considered a large slice of proper bread with butter and cheese or sliced meat as a complete meal. Statistically, every German eats about 90 kilograms of baking goods per year, compared to only 55 kilograms for the French. For a long time there was a saying that Germany has more than 300 kinds of bread, plus another 1,200 kinds of smaller baking goods. But when the German Federation of the Bakery Trade really went for recognition of their craft by the UNESCO, they collected recipes for more than 3,500 different kinds of bread alone from the Federation members. The reasons for the differences of German bread culture are manifold. Let me briefly cover 3 of them. The first reason is Germany's soil and climate. Worldwide, the most commonly used grain for bread making is wheat. Wheat has also been grown in Germany for a long time, but the more dominant local grain has always been rye, especially the further north you go. Soil and climate simply lend themselves better to rye here. To have several kinds of grain to work with right at your doorstep opens up much more options for baking. Today there's a whole range of German breads from ones completely made of wheat to ones completely made of rye and every mixture in between. Consequently, the most common kinds of bread you see in Germany are so-called Graubrot, grey bread, made from both wheat and rye, resulting in a medium dark bake. One of the more extreme and best known German breads is Pumpernickel, a heavy bread made from a mixture of coarsely ground rye and whole rye berries. Pumpernickel is baked at low temperature for up to a day, resulting in a bread with a very dark natural color, a sweet taste, and almost no crust at all. And while I talk about grains, Germans also have a liking for bread made of whole grain or of spelt. The latter is especially interesting for people with a wheat allergy. Next to available grain varieties, another reason for Germany's elaborate bread culture is the nation's long history of being an ever-changing, decentralized collection of small countries and principalities, each with a distinct local culture, including their own philosophies of bread making. To have your own bread was a sign of individuality. The aforementioned Pumpernickel, for example, was originally a very local affair associated with the region of Westphalia. It was first mentioned in 1450 and eventually spread into the nearby Netherlands, where it is today known as Roggebrot, which in turn simply means rye bread. The drive for local specialties is a key reason why there are more than 3,500 different kinds of bread and an even larger variety of smaller bakes in Germany today. Add to this the custom to invent specialty bakes for certain times of the year, for religious holidays or other occasions. There are specialty bakes just for New Year, the carnival time, Easter, Christmas, for birthdays, christenings and weddings, many of those again different from region to region. Finally, when looking at the quality of German bread, the elaborate German history of apprenticeships and guilds was at play here again. Already in the Middle Ages you had to undergo a strict training regime for several years to become a recognized baker, and even then you may have only been allowed to bake certain kinds of goods. There used to be specialty bakers for white and dark bread, for sourdough baking and sweet bakes and so on. This extreme specialization has been toned down over the centuries, but to become a baker in Germany still requires a long and nowadays nationally regulated training regime. And even today, at a time of standardization and retail chains, there are still twice as many bakeries to be found in Germany than pharmacies. And it should not come as a surprise that more and more German bakeries pop up everywhere in the world. The German Federation of the Bakery Trade even offers further education courses for bakers from other countries to learn more about the German art of baking. You see, the Germans are not called world champions of the export trade for nothing. Today, we even export one of the oldest and most fundamental crafts. Guten Appetit.
If you would like to hear more from Sven, check out his fantastic German language podcast at vivabritannia.de or search for Viva Britannia in iTunes. And now for this week's News in Brief. You may not have noticed it if you spend your entire life living underground, or at least if you're one of the lucky few who get to work in an air-conditioned office. But this week was hot, and I mean hotter than extra spicy Indian curry in a blast furnace hot. Temperatures in the country have reached almost 40 degrees Celsius. That is 104 Fahrenheit. It's actually been so hot that parts of the Autobahn ruptured, causing tailbacks in parts of the country. In the end, speed limits need to be imposed temporarily here. As always, the advice is to stay indoors, drink lots of water, and especially wear your sunscreen if you go outside during the daytime. Or do other German things, like swim in a lake or go to a beer garden. The German Agency of International Cooperation, named the GIZ, has now invested over 2 billion euros for development projects between last year and now. Most of this organization is financed by the German government. The goal of the organization is to help people all throughout the world improve their living conditions. And recently, they want to focus on combating climate changes where possible. An example of this is where the GIZ is working with foreign countries to help change legislation to promote sustainable energy sources. The GIZ also focuses their efforts to help refugees in parts of the world where war and crisis are or had taken place. A lot of help and resources has recently gone out to help those in Ukraine. This organization also works on home issues within Germany. They started programs to either train local citizens or bring in foreign workers to help with the increased need of skilled job applicants. A tragic accident took place at the Volkswagen factory located in Bonnetal, Germany this past week. Contractors had come to the factory to work on assembling a robot and a new electric motors production line. One of the contractors, age 22, was helping set up a stationary robot. When the robot was turned on, it grabbed the contractor and crushed him against a metal slab, where he suffered injuries. They resuscitated him on site, but unfortunately he died in the hospital. The Volkswagen spokesperson said that there was likely no problem with the robot itself, and that the issue was a human error. The prosecutors in Germany are thinking if they need to bring up formal charges, but have not yet decided against who. Not the best news for Germany on the sports front of the Women's World Cup. This past Tuesday, the German national team lost their game against the USA in a fierce competition with a final score of 2-0. After the game, some criticism of head coach Sylvia Neid, as she was said that she had a lack of flexibility or she didn't have the strength of a leader. Many said that because of the USA, how they changed their normal, more defensive team to a more stronger offensive team, Neid should have adapted, but no changes were made. Germany wasn't going home yet. They had come this far and they would play England and battle for third place of the tournament. This was after England's devastating own goal, which sent Japan forward with a score of 0-1. Unfortunately for Germany, the game on Saturday ended for a good show from both teams, but England prevailed, winning 1-0. Germany was ranked number 1 going into the tournament, and after some truly excellent play, they unfortunately are going home in 4th place. Best of luck to you in your next national tournament, Germany. If you ever ride public transportation in Germany without paying for a ticket, you might want to reconsider now. Germany's public transportation is largely based on the honor system, whereas you're expected to purchase the correct ticket, but you're not always asked to show it. This can sometimes lead those that might take public transportation without the proper payment. Before this past week, if you're caught on a tram, train, or bus without a valid ticket, you'll get a €40 fine. As of Wednesday, the fines have jumped up from €40 to €60 if you're caught violating. This is big news for Germany, as it's the first time the fines have risen in the past 12 years, which might be the reason for the big jump. The change in fines is a nationwide update to public transportation, and while it's not happening everywhere at once, it will be for the entire country. This past Wednesday, the update is for Berlin and Stuttgart, and it will be followed by Hamburg and Munich next month. All areas should be updated with this new system at the end of the year. The big reason for this change is that the transit companies estimate that they lose €250 million each year from non-paying customers, and they think that a higher punishment might deter a greater number of people to think before they hop on without a ticket.
And that was this week's News in Brief. And if you fancy getting an email update from us with the best of this week in Germany, sign up to our email newsletter, which is available in the sidebar at thisweekingermany.de. Now, Rob, it's time for you to do your favorite part of the program, and I think it's the favorite part because you are the boss of it, and you get to decide what goes around.
It's also
here.
my favorite part because it happens to be the best part of This Week in Germany. It is Destination Germany.
Whoa, one second. It's the best part after the top story and all of my parts.
Or you could say is actually the best part of the entire program because it happens to be the most interesting because I run it. And it is very interesting to a lot of people because we get to show them what the really cool things that are in Germany, something that they might not have heard about, something that they might have lived here for all their lives, and still they're like, that's something just around the corner that I would really like to see. Or, hey, I know where that is. I've always wanted to go there, and now that you've told me about it, I think I'm going to make the trip.
That sounds absolutely wonderful. And if people want to check out photos of each week's destination, where should they go?
They should go to our website, thisweekingermany.de.
Cool. In our last episode, we went as far southwest as you can go in the country, like a kilometer or two If you went to the west, you could go to France, and then a kilometer or two in the south, you could go to Switzerland, because we were in the city of Weil am Rhein, and we looked at the Vitra campus and design museum. So here we found a beautiful modern architecture, as well as luxurious furniture design, if that's your kind of thing. And Rob, did you know, I found out this week as I was sitting in the office that I was actually sitting on a Vitra chair. So I had no idea, but I was enjoying their design all along.
Was it a modern masterpiece?
It was kind of a modern masterpiece, but I don't really notice furniture design that much.
There is a modern masterpiece that I have always had my eye on that I'm not like huge into material stuff. It's something that I really want. And while they don't sell it at Vitra, they do have it in their collection, is the ball chair by Aero Arnio. And I think I probably won't have an original. If they do make replicas, then I think I will have a replica someday of the ball chair. It just looks so beautiful.
I don't know what a ball chair is, but it sounds really exciting.
It's pretty much like a ball that you can sit in.
Oh, okay. Well, that's good for
an apt description, a ball chair.
Yeah. Well, yes. It sounds great for people who are into that kind of thing. So yes, what also might catch your eye at this place is their clock sculpture, which you can climb and use as an observation deck to see the grounds, the city, and the countryside, and then you can spin like a corkscrew as you slide down the enclosed but transparent slide from the top to the bottom. So it looks like a great place to spend a day, but we're going somewhere very, very different today, aren't we, Rob?
Well, this week we're going back to the nation's capital, and I want to tell you about a special museum that's in Berlin. It's been around for about 30 years or so, and only recently got a revamp to become what it is today. It's a serious place by all accounts due to the subject matter. This week's destination is Topography des Terrors, or in English, Topography of Terror.
I know about this museum. It's not far from where I live. It shows the repression and also quite literally the terror that happened during the era of National Socialism in Germany.
Yes, especially during the times of 1933 to 1945. And while there's a lot of history to cover during this period, the museum focuses on the Third Reich police forces and the SS. It covers in great details the crimes and atrocities that were involved in Germany and all throughout Europe. And on a side note, something that I didn't know before looking into this destination is what SS actually stands for. For those that don't know, it stands for Schutzstaffel, or protection. Schutzstaffel, or protection squad.
One of your, another one of those words that you don't like to pronounce.
Yep.
Maybe you should just say SS. It's easier.
Yes.
Yes. So I know where this place is, but maybe you could tell our listeners at home where they could find it, and especially if you know the top sites in Berlin, then it's quite easy to find.
It's right in the middle of Berlin, and it's really easy to get to. You can take public transportation or walk from Potsdamer Platz, and you can get there within 5 to 10 minutes.
And so other than the subject matter, what sets this museum apart from other museums? Does it have anything special about it?
It does. Both the building and the design in the museum are really interesting. At the time, the headquarters of the Gestapo, that's the political police force at the time, was located there. It was destroyed later, and it was used for an amusement park that had bumper cars. And then in the late 70s, it was decided that this area should be a memorial and museum, and they excavated the site.
And when did it actually get turned into a museum?
In 1987, the Berlin's 750th anniversary. The museum was a memorial to the Museum and Memorial Topography of Terror opened, and it was an open-air museum, meaning that it had no walls or anything like that.
So it's pretty unusual. How are they able to keep it as an open-air museum?
It is a protected area, meaning that they have people watching it, so it can't be vandalized, and the exhibits, which were in the excavated cellars, had a canopy built overhead, so it protected it from the elements.
Also, what's pretty cool about this place, if you're interested in the history of Berlin, is that the Berlin Wall runs directly parallel to this space. So you can go there and you can learn about the Nazi period in Berlin, and then right in front of that you can see the wall period of Berlin as well. So it's an original piece of the Berlin Wall. So it's quite an unusual place, I would say. So maybe you could describe what the rest of the museum looks like.
Well, the grounds look great now. It's recently received a huge reconstruction that finished in 2010. There was a little bit of controversy as the city had tried to update the original design about 20 years ago, but due to some bad planning, it was stopped mid-project and they had to completely tear it down. Now they have modernized the grounds for both the outdoor and they have added a internal structure as well. So both the outdoor museum and they have a new internal museum there that look wonderful.
Okay, so what is available on the inside part of the museum which you don't get on the outside?
It's a 2-story building that's made of glass, like a cube, and it looks great both from the inside and out. The open air part of the museum tells a story about what happened during this time, while the building is more of a documentation center for the subject, and it has a wealth of information. It also includes an exhibition hall and a library.
Okay, so of course it is some very heavy history to go to this place and to learn about what happened in those days. But I know that's why a lot of people come to Berlin, is that they're interested in the history of the capital of Germany. So it is still a very interesting place to go, and it's still quite suitable for tourists. Is there anything else that you would want to leave us with when talking about this place?
Well, like a lot of museums, there are special exhibitions that can really pique my interest to make me want to come. Most of them last at least a year, so you don't have to run out and check to see if a good one is coming or just leaving. So just go whenever you want to, but no, they do have rotating exhibits. And right now they have one called the Face of the Ghetto, which are photographs that were taken by Jewish photographers in the Litzmannstadt ghetto between 1940 and 1944.
Well, thanks as always, Rob, for telling us about our destination this week. It was the Topography of Terror Open Air Museum and Documentation Center. So if any of you are interested in seeing what this place looks like, go to our website, thisweekingermany.de. We'll have some photos there for you as always. Next up, our German of the Week section, where we put the spotlight on a prominent person from this week's news, who could be a German citizen or even a foreigner who we deem an honorary German. But it's always someone who's had an effect, for better or worse, on German culture, society, or politics.
Welcome back once again to German of the Week. This will be the second episode in a row where our spotlighted person in Germany is not actually German or from the country, but is still deemed very important here. The person we'll look at this week is a writer, a novelist, a journalist, and an intellectual. He is Amos Oz. Amos Oz is from Israel. Born Amos Klausner in 1939, though his parents were from Poland and present-day Ukraine. At age 14, he left home to join the Socialist Zionist movement, and he was adopted by a new family, and he changed his last name to Oz, which is Hebrew for strength. He wanted to be a writer, and the group allowed him 1 day to write. After he wrote a bestseller, followed by more successful books, he was allowed to write 4 days as long as he continued to teach 2 days a week. In his career, he published 38 books, including novels, short stories, children's books, and books with articles and essays. He and his works have been very successful and have been translated into 42 different languages. And now why writer Amos Oz is our German of the Week. He has recently won Germany's International Literature Prize. Both he and Mirjam Pressler, who translated Oz's book Judas into German, will be receiving their prize this week in Berlin. The list of characters in the book is quite interesting. It consists of 3 living characters and 2 that are already dead. The main character is in university in 1959, and things are not going well for him in his life. He meets the other 2 characters, and they share a living space. This book is described as a philosophical novel based on theological literature. The main character studies why Judas would have betrayed Jesus in the Bible for only 30 silver coins. Here, he discovers dark secrets as the book delves into what it means to be a traitor.
This Week in Germany is produced by me, Daniel Winter. It is written and presented by myself and Rob Bishop.
And a big thanks to Sven Rudloff for his great feature on yummy baked goods. If you'd like to hear more from Sven, check out his fantastic German language podcast at vivabritannia.de or search for Viva Britannia on iTunes.
Thank you as always. Thank you very much for listening. We'll be back in another 7 days with more of This Week in Germany.